Well, I'm pretty sure it is safe to say that Boogie2988 is probably the most sad, desperate, and just one of the worst people I have ever had the pleasure or displeasure of taking a deep dive into his life. So, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, Boogie2988, or Steven, whatever the heck you want to call him nowadays, had a documentary done about him here on YouTube. The whole thing is free. I'm going to link it down below. And as a longtime fan of Boogie's, I was somebody who grew up watching him. He's one of the reasons I even do YouTube today. He was one of the most popular guys when I was growing up. All my friends watched him. His Francis skits were hilarious. A lot of his takes on gaming and just topics in general were super interesting and super funny. And the guy was such a likable individual for such a long time. He was this guy who was going to get gastric bypass surgery and he was going to take over his life again. He got married. Like, everything was going right for this individual. There wasn't a thing that this guy could do wrong. I mean, for God's sakes, the guy was called the Mr. Rogers of YouTube for a long time because he was just seen as this awesome, wonderful individual. Like, everybody looked up to this guy. He was one of the original big content creators. And like I said, alongside with like PewDiePie and Captain Sparkles, he was one of the reasons I even wanted to start doing YouTube, because that's just how likable this guy was. And for whatever reason, over the last couple of years, he has just continued to step on rakes, shoot himself in the foot, literally, well, not literally, but pull a gun on a guy, for God's sakes. And he just continues to allow like internet trolls or quote unquote haters, if you want to call them that, on the internet, just get to him constantly. He cannot get off of Reddit. He cannot get off of Twitter. And he continuously keeps kicking himself in the balls over and over and over again. And the sad part is, because he's had such a long time platform presence on YouTube and has amassed well over 4 million subs and has created a fan base that really supports him and wants him to succeed, so many people reached out to help him. Everybody tried their best to give this guy the benefit of the doubt all the time, including myself. Honestly, up until about the last year and a half, I was rooting for this guy. I was hoping that finally he was going to do what he said. Every time something bad happened, he had some excuse, he had some issue come up, or he would make up how he is now the victim and how it's everyone else's fault that this is going on. And I was getting sick of it. I'm going to be honest with you, but I kept rooting for the guy because, like I said, I grew up on this guy. I grew up watching this individual. And for whatever reason, for the life of me, cannot explain to anyone why this guy would allow this documentary to be made. Not only was this isn't just like a documentary like how like Tom Dark does it, or how like Sunny V2 would do a documentary where it's just this, 15-minute to like 45-minute like mini docu-series where it just goes over his life and they kind of give their own take on this. No, this is a green-lit, Boogie signed his name on the dotted line, allowed this guy to come into his house, to see his finances, to see how he's getting by. Barely, by the way, he's barely getting by. He's facing bankruptcy and foreclosure on his house, for God's sakes. And just all of the mistakes this guy makes behind the scenes. He just let this guy into his life, and then he okayed him to upload and publish this stuff. Like, he okayed this. Now, this documentary, I really, really recommend people watch it, because I think this documentary will finally just get everybody off the Boogie train. I think there's still a few people holding on to hope that this guy's going to change and that things are going to turn around for him. But after watching this documentary, I have never been so just upset and disgusted by a single individual in my life, especially at like this, as big of a YouTuber as he is. Like, he has just, and I've just never been so angry, is really what I'm trying to find. And the reason for that is this guy spends an entire, almost hour-long documentary just fishing for ways to make people feel bad for him. That is the entire documentary. I feel like he made this thinking that, yeah, this will make people feel bad for me. But let me just go over what is in this documentary real quick. I'm just going to sum up a few key points. I really think you guys should go watch it. In fact, pause this, go watch that, and then come back to this, because you'll understand this stuff so much more and understand why I'm so just irate about this entire situation. So first and foremost, this guy, well married, was spending like $40,000+ a year on sex workers. He was spending so much of his goddamn YouTube money on sex workers because he feels entitled to them. In the documentary, he talks about how he deserves LA 10s. Like, I'm talking top of the line Victoria's Secret models. This is what this guy deserves. That's what he thinks. He thinks he deserves that stuff. Not that he's earned it, not that he has lost all this weight and done all this stuff and that, yeah, now I'm finally able to date women like this. No, he says he deserves it. You don't deserve anything, dude. You don't deserve nothing, right? Especially at the time he was married and had girlfriends at the time. Like, it's disgusting. And he brags about it like it's this just triumphant thing. Like, he just treats all these women, like, he talks about women in the documentary like they're just a piece of meat. Like, that's all they are to him. And I'm not somebody who's like really into woke culture or all about like the women's stuff or feminism and everything like that, but this guy literally talks about women like they're just there for his pleasure. That's it. And he like I said, he spent so much money on them that he is now facing bankruptcy. He spent so much of this money. He also failed in cryptocurrency, which is another reason why he lost like 600 grand in crypto, which is insane. So he's basically dead broke. And for a while now, if you guys haven't kept up with the entire Boogie situation over the last couple of years, a lot of people have been telling him, like, hey man, why don't you like turn your life around? Why don't you hit the gym, lose your weight? Like, you got this gastric bypass surgery and you still eat like shit. Why don't you like go out and get a real job so that you can at least, until you can get your shit together, you can at least have some type of income flow so that you're not out on the streets in a year, so that you're not going to lose your goddamn house. Why don't you go find something to do? And this is the main talking point I want to talk about, because this part of the video made me so goddamn mad. I have never seen somebody just completely just act so entitled to what, to nothing. Like, this guy acts so entitled. Like how, because he's a YouTuber or an original YouTuber, he just deserves everything. So the guy who filmed the documentary series also had the same idea. Boogie, why don't you go and try and get a job? And so Boogie sets up this interview with, I believe it's one of those, like, you know, employment agencies where you go in and you kind of give them your resume and they're like, okay. And then they dish out the resume to like all these different employers. So instead of having to go on like Indeed or something like that and apply to a bunch of jobs individually, a bunch of applications should get sent out at once. And they kind of try to find the right fit for you, right? That's the whole point of this employment agency. And I believe that's what one of these is. So he goes into this room, and I would show footage, but I have no idea if I'd get copywritten or not. And I don't want to deal with that. But he goes into this room, right? This interview room, and he sits down with this lady. And I saw a few people upset because he introduces himself as Boogie or Steven, and then it's like, oh, Steven's probably better. But people go by their nicknames all the time. I didn't really care for that. Like, that's whatever. You can go by Boogie. It's not like an offensive nickname or anything like that. But it's what he does once the interview starts. And what is that he does? The same BS that he has done for the last 2 years, which is try to play victim and try to make everyone feel bad for him and try to make up some goddamn excuse on why he can't have a job, why he deserves to not have a job, and how he deserves to just be this top-of-the-line YouTuber, right? With no effort, no work in. And this is what he does. He sits down at the goddamn table and he lists off literally just reason after reason after reason of why nobody should hire him. He talks about how he's disabled by the state, which is okay. Yep, there's jobs for that. You can start with that. And then he goes on and talks about how he is a convicted felon. Okay, I can see why they would need to know that, but there are jobs that hire for that. How he has an attitude problem, how he has depression, how he has all of these just issues in his life that make it so that he might not be the most reliable employee. Like, yeah, I don't have a lot of work history. I don't have any references. Not that I couldn't go get them. Not that I couldn't go, you know, find some references around. Like, I used to work at a GameStop, he says, which is okay. Like, that's something, I guess. But then, to really put the nail in the coffin, he tells this individual, as this lady's being like, okay, all this is fine. We can work around this. We can definitely find you something. We just need you to change your attitude a little bit. Then he just drops the bomb. I was like, yeah, I used to be in the porn industry. Oh, also, if you look up my name on the internet, some people might say that I'm a pedophile and that I beat the shit out of my wife one time. Who the fuck says that in an interview? Who says that in the interview? Nobody ever says that. Like, even if an employer looked you up and saw that shit on the internet, like, they could ask you and you'd be like, no, it's not true. None of this happened. It's just that I used to be a YouTuber and the internet sucks. It's a shitty place sometimes. And so they made up a bunch of goddamn rumors. None of this actually happened. It's been disproven a million fucking times. Here you go. Now, I don't know if it's all been disproven a million times, but he at least can have like a stance on that. He can at least argue that. But he just drops it out there like it's all true. Like, he just lays it out on this lady. And then she, within 3 minutes of an interview, she does what everyone on the goddamn internet has been doing for the last 2 years and calls him out on his bullshit, which made me so goddamn happy. I was genuinely like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. Because what is wrong with this guy, man? She literally just tells him, like, hey, your problem isn't that you're not employable. Your problem is that you don't even want to be employable. Your problem is that you have just cocooned yourself into this fucking stupidity room of everyone needs to feel bad for me. These are all the reasons why I suck. You should feel bad for me. Give me shit. That is how he acts throughout this entire documentary, right? He even calls the guy who's filming this documentary after this interview, and word for word, I cannot make this shit up, tells him that I have 4 million viewers on YouTube. I don't need a job. I'm going to go back to content making. Like, dude, you're going to lose your damn house, dude. Okay, let me put it this way. I have 400 subs, okay? I'm not a big YouTuber. One day I would love to be a big YouTuber, right? This shit is so fun to me. I love making these videos. Even though my scheduling fucking sucks, I work a job that requires me to be at work for anywhere from 8 to up to 16 hours a shift, if not longer sometimes. Like, I have a lot on my plate outside of doing this, but I like doing it so much that I go out of my way to do it, okay? I try to make my content better. I try to do anything I can to make it better because I enjoy doing this. Boogie also says he enjoys doing YouTube. He also acts like he enjoys all this shit. The problem is, he feels he's entitled to being popular on YouTube. He goes and says that he has 4 million subs and that he doesn't need a job. Again, if today, after this video released, if I had 10 million subs after this, but then I fuck up and keep kicking myself in the nuts, like, that's on me, man. That's on me, okay? And I would be the first person to say that that's on me because I had 10 million subs. And guess what? I did nothing to keep them. They left. They don't watch my content anymore. And nobody watches his content anymore because all of his content is exactly the same recycled BS time and time and time again. Feel bad for me. Hey, Boogie, why don't you lose some weight? Well, because I like food. Well, no shit. We all like food, but you are going to die. Okay? I like fucking chocolate bars, guys. I really do. I fucking love Twix is my favorite candy bar in the whole fucking world. They really are. I love Twix. I don't eat a lot of them because I like to stay in shape. I like to work out, that kind of stuff. From time to time, I'll buy a Twix. You know, maybe I'm on my way to my friend's house or something. We're going to watch a football game or a soccer game, or we're going to watch something, maybe just a movie. I don't know. I'll buy a Twix. Fuck it, right? But if a licensed doctor came over to me and said, hey, man, if you eat another Twix, you're going to fucking die, I'm not eating them anymore. I'm not. I love them, but I ain't fucking eating them anymore because I want to live. This guy, if a doctor told him, hey man, you shouldn't eat Twix anymore, you're gonna fucking die, he would make up some goddamn excuse on how this doctor is just trying to hold him back and fast shape him or some crap like that. Like, this entire documentary, again, I genuinely believe that the entire point of this was he thought that this was going to be this amazing reveal of like, oh, now everyone's going to feel bad for me and everyone's going to come flowing back to my channel because they're like, oh, poor Boogie. Oh, here's our money. Let me just dono you my life savings because, oh, we feel so bad for you. Here you go. Here you go. And I feel like that's exactly what he pictured in his head. Was everyone was just going to feel bad for him, give him their money, and he was just going to be this happy, like, I got money and I'm doing YouTube again. Thanks, guys. And then go right back to being a victim again. But that's not what happened. I loved the comment section on the documentary. So many people are just done with his shit. And I'm one of them. I have, like I said at the start of the video, I have vouched for this guy. I have rooted for this guy. I've done nothing but hope that this guy can turn his shit around. And he continues time and time and time again to continuously just backstab and fuck over all of his fans because he does nothing with the support that they give him. None. There are still a small handful of people out there that were supporting him and hoping and praying that he would turn things around. And this documentary proves that this guy is just a loser. He's a piece of shit. And honestly, I hope he loses his fucking house. I hope he loses his shit. And he maybe then he'll finally learn that, hey man, I need to change. I doubt it, but that's up for him, not for me. But anyways, guys, if you did enjoy the video, remember, please leave a like, comment, of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It all really means a ton. Don't forget to check me out on all my socials. All links will be down below. If you want anything, know about my setup and stuff, all that will be down below as well. And until next time, guys, Godspeed.